trumpets. Give me the beat, boy. Hi, I'm going under the name Slick Riddles today with a kind of TED Talk, but slicker, fancier. It's called How the Blues Harp Dissolved a Good Catholic Upbringing. So of course the first step is to establish that I had a good Catholic upbringing, which is not too difficult because it happened. I was born September 1st, 1953, which means my birthday's coming up. If any of you are wondering what to get me, a Marine Band harmonica in any key would be great. There's a place called Woodwinds and Brasswinds. They're online. They have the best prices. I was baptized into the Catholic Church on September 13th, 1953, at St. Rosalima Church in Brooklyn. And incidentally, St. Rosalima was the first person born in the Western Hemisphere who was canonized and became a saint. You don't know much about religion at that age, but a strange thing happened when I was 3 years old. I have an older brother, and he was being confirmed, which means the bishop was coming around. And 3 years old, you don't know much about it, but he's got a very fancy hat. He's got a staff or a crook that he's carrying. And as he's leaving the church after the confirmation, he stopped by my mother and me at the back of the church, and he said something like, "What a cute little hamburger," or something like that. It's weird because I think I have a memory of it, but my mother also told the story so many times that it might be that. But a bishop is pretty impressive. I might have a memory of it. But anyway, my mother decided that hamburger was code for this one's going to be a priest. You know? I don't know how she figured that out, but I think it's called exegesis. Started Catholic school in 1959. In the second grade, you make your first confession and your first communion. Your first confession is pretty weird because you're like 7 years old. You don't know what half of the commandments even mean. Nobody ever explained adultery to me. The nuns could not explain adultery. They couldn't explain coveting your neighbor's wife, what the hell that meant. And I was a good kid, so I didn't have very many sins. So right from the get-go, I lied to the priest about the bad things that I had done, which was a bad thing, you know? But I never confessed to that. But anyway, once you make your communion, you're eligible to become an altar boy. And it's like 1961. They're still using Latin. So I became an altar boy, and for 2 years we were doing the Latin responses. They're kind of burned into my mind. And then they switched to English, so I sort of learned what they were, what they meant. Agnus Dei qui tollit peccata mundi miserere nobis, Kyrie eleison, Pater noster quies in celis, confiteor Deo omnipotenti, Beata Maria semper Virgini. I can still do them. My favorite was the beginning of the Mass. Intro ibo ad altare Dei, and the response from the altar boy is, Ad Deum qui laetificat juventutem meum, which means we go to the altar of God, and the response is, the God who brought joy to our youth. So, it was fun mumbling Latin when you didn't really know what it meant. But in October of 1962, I got a letter, my mother got a letter from Father McLaughlin, who's in charge of the altar boys. And it said that Father Hughes, the pastor of the church, had chosen me and 2 other boys to serve his 6:30 Mass a week at a time. So I would do every third week. And in the letter, he mentioned that Father Hughes had commented on my beautiful Latin pronunciation. I still have the letter. I know my mother was thinking, well, gee, what profession requires beautiful Latin pronunciation in 1962? Well, sure, a high school Latin teacher, maybe, but really, this one's going to be a priest or a hamburger, something like that. I loved being an altar boy. It was a lot of fun. You got to play with incense and candles and wax and stuff. And I was doing good. I was memorizing the catechism. I developed a very fast Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou amongst women, blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us now at the hour of death. Amen. I can say a pretty quick rosary. And things are going along like that. I'm still in Catholic school. And then one day in, I think it was 1965, I didn't mark these things down at all, but my brother had brought home, one of my brothers had brought home a nylon string guitar, a folk guitar, or a classical guitar. And I went in and got it out from under the bed, got a hold of the Peter, Paul, and Mary songbook, which had little block diagrams for the chords. And I taught myself 3 chords. C, D minor, and G. F would come much later. F was this one. Those guys just did House of the Rising Sun. You couldn't do House of the Rising Sun until you had an F chord. And so it was a while. It's called Stew Ball. Stew Ball was a racehorse, and he wished she were mine. He never drank water, he always drank wine. His bridle was silver, his mane it was gold, and the story of the saddle has never been told. We're not going to discuss the ability to play the harmonica and the guitar at the same time today. That's for next Porch Fest. I had to go to the crossroads, sell my soul to the devil to learn that. But that day I became a musician, or at least a guitar player. My soul was still not in danger because there were 2 nuns in my grammar school, my elementary school, that played that kind of guitar and sang sort of pop songs. They were kind of religious. And it's now 1965. There's starting to be folk masses. You're starting to see guitars show up in mass. So I'm playing the guitar, and then about a year later, I guess, my other brother, Peter, the one that was being confirmed when I was called a hamburger, he got into Bob Dylan, and he brought home a bunch of harmonicas. And having had so much success with the guitar, I figured I'd give that a whirl. So I got a harmonica out, got the same Peter, Paul, and Mary songbook, but learned a different song. And the first song I learned was Blowing in the Wind. And I did it mostly by ear. And I remember thinking, am I better at harmonica than Dylan? Apparently, yes. There's lots of people that are better than Dylan, but they're not as artistic. And I discovered that I could pick out tunes. If I could hear a tune, I could play it eventually. Okay? So St. Patrick's Day would come around. Christmas would come around. Any others? Name a tune.
Oh, Susanna.
That's my daughter, Susanna. She has a banjo, but she doesn't put it on her knee. She doesn't play it really. So that's a harmonica. That's not a blues harp. That wasn't dissolving my Catholic upbringing. That was just me playing Mitch Miller songs. And boy, there's a lot of them. So I'm going along that way. I actually, in later years, I did a little busking that way. At St. Patrick's Day parade in the sophomore year of high school. The cop had to stop us from collecting money from people on the street. Still, my soul is in good shape. Then a weird thing happened, and it's kind of like a coincidence or a happy accident or something like that. Brother Peter, besides bringing harmonicas into the house, brought in a fabulous collection of LPs, 65, 66, 67, the Mothers of Invention, the Doors, the Holy Modal Rounders, Donovan, the Beatles, whatever you want, all this kind of stuff. And I would come home from high school, it's now 1967, I'd come home from high school and go through his albums looking for something to listen to. What went on? And one day, I pulled out an album called East West by a band called the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. And yeah, I have a sample. This is very professional stuff here. I have a Bluetooth on this speaker, but I don't know how to use it yet. I pulled out this particular album because oh shit, no, it's not happening yet. Okay. I pulled out this particular album and put it on because it had the work song on it. And I knew the work song from an album that my mother had by the Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. So I put the album on, and I didn't go right to the work song because that's not how you did it. And I sat down to listen to the album and read the notes. So the first song is Walking Blues. And I'm reading through the notes, and I I hear this. The first song has 3 verses, and then the guitar and the harmonica take breaks. But I didn't even know it was a harmonica. That's the guitar. Now, right as I'm listening to that, I'm reading that that's a harmonica. I didn't even know it was a harmonica. How could I? It didn't sound anything like the harmonica that I was playing. And I think this is the point where the good Catholic upbringing started to dissolve. Because to play harmonica like Paul Butterfield does, or I sometimes get close to, you have to break all the rules. Now, the first rule is, this is a diatonic harmonica. This particular one is in the key of C. All the songs that I played before were in the key of C. If I wanted to play them in a different key, I'd get a different harmonica. But what blues guys do is they play it in a different key entirely. On a C harp, they'll play it in D sometimes, and in G. What's with motorcycles? So the way I was playing, you play in C. But the blues guys are switching it around, and they're playing in G on a C harmonica. And what that does, it gives you access to a lot of the, what they call draw notes, or breathing in notes, which are the ones that can be bent, which is the other tactic that they're using. The harmonica is designed to play German Umpan music, basically. Concentrating mostly on the blow notes. It's the only instrument I know that you can produce music breathing in and out. The blues guys, so because of that, they want chords. That's a G chord on a C harmonica. That's a C chord on a C harmonica. In order to get that, you have to cut out some of the notes. There's a full scale in the middle. There's not a full scale at the bottom end. But you can get the full scale if you twist your mouth around and drop the notes, drop the pitch of the notes. I sometimes can do it and sometimes I can't do it. But bending notes is another tactic that the blues guys use. The other thing is they will take the mic, hope I don't get feedback, and hold the harmonica right up to it. And if you got a good tube amp, you get like this dirty, gritty sound. Okay? Another thing they do is throat vibrato. They're making the note. Here's a plain note. Here's a note with throat vibrato. Okay? There's a thing called the warble. I was playing harmonica for like a year and a half before I discovered any of these things. The warble goes like this. It's two notes going really fast back and forth. Okay? And eventually I learned all these things. And now that didn't cause an immediate dissolving of my Catholic upbringing. It took some time. Being able to play the harmonica in a blues style got me invited to jam sessions where you cut school and you go to somebody's basement and you play for hours. It's great fun until you have to drop out of high school because you've cut so many classes. And also, I guess it was pretty rapid. Junior year of high school, I went to a Catholic boys' high school, Nazareth in Brooklyn. And at the end of junior year, I failed religion. I failed English and I failed religion. I made up the English at Erasmus, but nobody told me what to do about the religion. And it turns out they did that on purpose. They didn't really want me back. I'd become a troublemaker, so that was that. Now you start listening to blues music, you're listening to the harmonica and you're learning to play harmonica, but then other things start filtering in. Mojos. What the hell's a mojo? Black cat bones? What are black cat bones? What is John the Conqueror root? All the graveyard goofle dust. There's all this reference to sort of folk magic of the South, and particularly of African Americans. And you start investigating that stuff, and that takes you to this whole realm of West African religions that have been transported to the Western Hemisphere through slavery, okay? And then you find out that in Catholic countries like Haiti, Cuba, Brazil, the slaves are forced to become Catholics. And as we all know, Catholicism has a vast inventory of saints, santos, okay? And many of the Africans in the Western Hemisphere begin to line up their spirits, their loa, their protectors with pictures of the saints that the Catholic Church is putting out. So St. Patrick is always depicted with snakes because he drove the snakes out of Ireland. One of the reasons my family's here, you know. So he becomes like Damballa, this West African snake god. Okay? My last name is St. Clair. My whole life I've had one more saint's name than any other kid in school. Mm-hmm. You know, there's St. Angelo's, but St. Angel doesn't really count. St. Clair is is a cool thing. Saint Clair is depicted as Aizan in Haitian voodoo, and she's in charge of the rituals that people, the initiation rituals, confirmation, if you will, and I don't know, pretty interesting. There's a guy, Azaka, who only came into existence after the Haitian Revolution, when Haitians could own land, and he's like the protector of farmers. And there's a Catholic saint, I think it's Saint Sebastian, but I'm not sure. There's a saint who's the protector of farmers in the Catholic Church. It's natural. So it kind of brings you all the way full circle. It kind of brings you around full circle. The blues harp dissolves my Catholic upbringing and then introduces me to this other version of Catholicism mixed with West African stuff. And that's that. All right. I'm going to finish up now. Maybe I'll do... They call the rising sun. Story about that song. Apparently Leadbelly taught it to Woody Guthrie, and then Dave Van Ronk picked it up from Woody Guthrie. And just before he was going to record it, Bob Dylan recorded it. So Dave Van Ronk stopped doing it because people asked him why he was doing a Dylan song. And then the Animals recorded it, and Dylan had to stop doing it because people would ask him, why are you doing an Animal song? Okay? God bless you all.